It's strange, isn't it, how we all crave the extraordinary. We want the great leap, the lightning strike of inspiration, the one breakthrough that will change everything overnight. We scroll through stories of sudden success, marvel at before and after transformations, and secretly wish that our own lives could pivot in an instant. Yet we overlook a quiet truth: change doesn't arrive with a bang, but with the gentle footsteps of repetition. The people we call lucky or gifted often have nothing more magical than an unshakable commitment to show up, again and again, when no one is watching. Consistency is not glamorous. It doesn't give you fireworks. It gives you something far more powerful: momentum. Think of a wheel at rest. At first, it takes great effort to move it even an inch, but with each steady push, it begins to roll more easily. Soon, it's moving with its own rhythm, carrying you forward with less strain. This is what happens in your life when you choose to act with persistence. Each repeated effort adds weight to your momentum until it becomes harder to stop than to keep going. Motivation, on the other hand, is a fickle companion. It burns bright, then fizzles out. You cannot depend on the spark to always be there. Discipline, however, is forged by showing up on the days you feel nothing. When the work is dull, when progress feels invisible, when your mind whispers excuses. That is the soil where real growth takes root. Discipline does not shout, it does not entertain. It simply demands that you return, no matter the mood, no matter the weather inside your mind. We live in a world that worships speed. We want our packages in a day, our results in a week, our success in a month. But the great irony is that anything truly worth having requires time. Time for skill to develop, for trust to be earned, for seeds to grow beneath the soil before they ever break the surface. Consistency is a quiet rebellion against this culture of impatience. It says, I will build something that lasts, even if no one claps for me today. There is something deeply revealing about what you do consistently. It becomes your identity. The person who exercises daily, even when tired, does not just have a workout habit. They see themselves as someone who values health. The writer who sits down at their desk every morning is not just creating pages. They are embodying the life of a creator. Your repeated actions carve grooves into your being, shaping the person you are becoming. Perhaps the most beautiful part of consistency is its compounding effect. At first, nothing seems to happen. You practice the skill, you build the habit, you keep the routine, and for weeks or months, there's no visible reward. But underneath, something is building, like drops of water wearing away stone, or interest accumulating in a bank account. One day, the curve of your progress suddenly tilts upward, and the world calls it overnight success, unaware of the years behind it. So if you feel stuck, do not wait for the lightning bolt. Do not wait to feel ready. Pick something worth building, your health, your craft, your relationships, and return to it daily. Show up even when the sky is gray and your heart is heavy. Let each small action be a vote for the future you desire. Over time, the quiet persistence will become your power, the habit will become your nature, and the results will become inevitable. Greatness does not come from what you do once in a while. It comes from what you do consistently, especially when it's hard. That is the key, and it has been in your hands all along. People often admire the success of others as if it appeared out of nowhere, as if someone woke up one morning and, without warning, found themselves standing at the peak of achievement. This illusion of overnight success is one of the most misleading ideas in our modern world. We see the final chapter of someone's story but rarely witness the countless pages written before it, the early mornings, the repeated failures, the daily grind that looked like nothing to the outside world. The truth is that meaningful transformation is almost never a single dramatic event. It is a gradual accumulation of small, deliberate actions repeated over time, so consistently that they eventually reshape the course of a life. The mind loves to imagine big leaps because they seem exciting. They give us a sense of control, as if we can change our entire existence with a single decision or breakthrough. But the human brain, body, and spirit do not work that way. Real growth, whether in learning a skill, improving health, or mastering a craft, is more like the process of erosion or the slow growth of a tree. Each day adds a barely visible layer, but over years the transformation becomes undeniable. This is why many people give up too soon. They start a new goal expecting dramatic progress in a short time, and when the results don't come quickly enough, they assume they have failed or that it's not worth continuing. In reality, they simply haven't allowed the natural pace of growth to reveal itself. The early stages of any journey are often the most challenging, not because the work is harder, but because the reward is invisible. Patience and faith in the process are essential here, and both are sustained by consistency. It's worth noting that this principle applies across every area of life. In relationships, trust is not earned in a single conversation. It is built in the repeated moments of honesty, reliability, and care. In business, success does not happen from one product launch, but from showing up in the market year after year, refining and improving. In personal development, self-discipline is not a single act of willpower, but the outcome of thousands of small choices aligned with one's values. The danger of believing in the myth of overnight success is that it sets unrealistic expectations. It makes people chase shortcuts, which often cost them more in the long run. It can also lead to self-doubt because when progress is slow, they assume they lack talent or intelligence, when in fact they simply need more time. Understanding that real change is a slow burn allows you to relax into the process, to focus less on the clock and more on the craft, to find satisfaction in the daily act rather than in the distant result. The shift from seeking instant transformation to embracing steady progress is one of the most liberating changes a person can make. It removes the pressure to be extraordinary overnight and replaces it with the discipline to be ordinary every day, knowing that the extraordinary will emerge naturally in time. Momentum is one of the most powerful yet underestimated forces in personal growth. When you begin something new, the first steps often feel heavy and slow. Every action requires conscious effort, and progress seems painfully small. But consistency has a unique way of changing the nature of that effort. When you repeat an action over and over, your mind, body, and emotions start to adapt. What was once unfamiliar becomes second nature, and the work begins to flow with less resistance. This is the birth of momentum, a self-sustaining force that can carry you forward even when motivation fades. In physics, momentum is the product of mass and velocity. In life, it's the product of habit and persistence. The more you show up, the heavier and more stable your progress becomes. It's like pushing a heavy wheel. At first, you need to strain with all your strength to get it moving even an inch. But once it's rolling, each push adds speed, and the wheel's own movement helps you continue without as much effort. This is the reason people who stick with something long enough often appear naturally disciplined. They aren't necessarily more disciplined by nature. They've simply reached a point where the act is supported by momentum instead of constant willpower. Momentum is built through repetition, but it also feeds on small victories. Each time you complete a task, you reinforce the belief that you can do it again. This creates a feedback loop. Your actions build confidence, and your confidence encourages further action. Over time, your mind associates the habit with progress, making it far easier to keep going than to stop. This is why breaking a habit can feel like slowing down a moving train. It resists stopping because it has built its own energy. The beauty of momentum is that it can work in your favor or against you. Positive momentum pushes you toward growth, discipline, and achievement. Negative momentum, on the other hand, can keep you trapped in unhelpful patterns. If you repeatedly skip your commitments, neglect your health, or avoid difficult tasks, you create a momentum of avoidance that makes it harder to return to the right path. The key is to be conscious of the direction you're building momentum in, because it will carry you whether you like it or not. This is why the early stages of building momentum are the most critical. The first few days or weeks are the time to push through the resistance, to keep going despite the lack of visible results. Once the habit is in motion, It begins to move you forward almost effortlessly, and once that force is on your side, you'll find that the hardest part wasn't the work itself. It was simply getting started and refusing to stop. Motivation is often celebrated as the fuel for achievement, but in reality it is unreliable. It comes in bursts, sometimes burning brightly, other times disappearing entirely. You may wake up one day feeling inspired and unstoppable, only to find the next day clouded with fatigue, doubt, or distraction. If your progress depends solely on this fleeting spark, you will find yourself stuck in cycles of starting strong and then fading away. This is why discipline, not motivation, is the true driver of long-term success, and discipline is born out of consistency. Discipline is not about feeling like doing something. It is about doing it regardless of your mood. It is the quiet agreement you make with yourself to show up every day, even when the excitement is worn off. Over time, this repeated action shapes your identity. You stop being a person who tries to do something and become the kind of person who simply does it because it's part of who you are. This shift is subtle but powerful. It removes the need to negotiate with yourself every time you face a task, replacing uncertainty with certainty in action. Motivation is emotional. Discipline is structural. When you rely on motivation, you are dependent on your feelings, which are influenced by countless factors outside your control. Sleep quality, weather, stress, mood, and even random events in your day. But discipline is built on systems and routines, and those can be controlled. For example, if you have a structured plan to write every morning at the same time, your chances of writing consistently are far higher than if you wait for inspiration to strike. The transition from motivation to discipline requires accepting discomfort. In the beginning, taking action without motivation feels like pushing against a strong current. You will have days where everything in you says skip it. But each time you follow through despite that resistance, you weaken the control your feelings have over your actions. Eventually, the act itself becomes easier, not because it requires less effort, but because it no longer triggers an internal debate. You've removed the option of avoidance. One of the most important aspects of discipline is that it creates trust in yourself. When you repeatedly keep the promises you make to yourself, you begin to believe in your own reliability. This self-trust becomes a powerful form of confidence, one that is rooted not in external achievements, but in the knowledge that you can count on yourself to follow through. In the end, motivation may be the spark that starts the fire, but discipline is the wood that keeps it burning. And the only way to develop discipline is to practice consistency, showing up not when you feel like it, but simply because it's time to act. Over weeks, months, and years, this approach will carry you much further than the strongest burst of motivation ever could. We live in a time where speed is celebrated and patience is undervalued. Everything from the way we shop to the way we communicate encourages us to expect instant results. This mindset has quietly shaped the way people approach their goals and personal growth. Many expect success to happen in the same way a message is delivered, immediately, without delay. But life does not operate on the timeline of convenience. True achievement, meaningful skill, and lasting change require patience, and patience is sustained through consistency. When you are patient, you give your actions the necessary time to produce results. Just as a seed takes weeks or months to break through the soil, your efforts often need time to develop before any visible outcome appears. The challenge is that during this hidden stage, most people quit. They believe their actions are ineffective because they cannot see progress. But progress is often taking place beneath the surface in ways that are invisible at first. Consistency is the bridge that carries you across that invisible stage until results finally emerge. In a fast-paced world, patience becomes an act of self-control. It requires you to resist the temptation to constantly measure your worth by quick wins. Instead, you focus on the process itself, trusting that the results will come if the process is sound and repeated over time. This is not easy in a society that praises those who achieve quickly. But those who embrace patience and pair it with steady effort gain an advantage that few possess. they are willing to outlast others. Consistency plays a critical role in sustaining patience because it creates rhythm. When you have a routine, you no longer obsess over how fast the results are coming. You simply focus on showing up each day and completing your part. Over time, the act of showing up becomes rewarding in itself, making you less desperate for immediate gratification. This shift is important because impatience can lead to shortcuts, and shortcuts often compromise quality, integrity, and long-term stability. It's also worth understanding that patience is not passive. It does not mean waiting without action. Rather, it is an active commitment to keep building, refining, and improving, even when the rewards are delayed. This mindset allows you to stay calm in moments when others panic or give up, because you have confidence in the compounding effect of your consistent actions. In the end, patience in a fast-paced world is not a weakness, it is a rare strength. It keeps you grounded when distractions and trends try to pull you away from your path. And when paired with consistency, it becomes a force that makes you unstoppable, because while others burn out chasing instant results, you are still moving forward, steady and unshaken, until the harvest comes. The most remarkable thing about consistency is that its power is often invisible in the beginning. When you start a new habit or pursue a goal, the early days can feel unrewarding. You put in effort, but the results seem small or non-existent. This is because growth, much like nature, operates on a principle of compounding. Just as a seed develops strong roots before it breaks through the soil, your repeated actions build a foundation beneath the surface long before the visible rewards appear. This unseen compounding effect is what makes consistency so transformative. Small actions, when repeated daily, begin to stack on top of one another. At first, the difference they make is barely noticeable. But over weeks, months, and years, the impact multiplies in ways that feel almost exponential. Consider learning a skill. Practicing for just 30 minutes a day might feel insignificant in the short term, but over a year, that's more than 180 hours of focused improvement, enough to completely transform your ability. The challenge is that the human mind tends to overestimate what can be achieved in a short time and underestimate what can be achieved over a long time. Many give up before the compounding has a chance to work in their favor. They abandon their efforts right before the curve of progress begins to steepen. This is why understanding and trusting the compounding effect is essential. You must keep going even when you can't yet see the payoff. Compounding doesn't just apply to skills and achievements. It shapes your mindset, relationships, and even your health. Small, consistent acts of kindness can deepen bonds over years. Regular attention to physical well-being through healthy eating, movement, and rest can lead to long-term vitality and resilience. Likewise, repeated negative actions compound as well. Neglecting your health, avoiding difficult conversations, or ignoring personal growth may not seem damaging in a single instance, but over time, they can create significant setbacks. The beauty of the compounding effect is that it rewards persistence more than intensity. A single burst of effort, no matter how passionate, cannot match the impact of steady, repeated action. It's the daily deposits into your growth account that build a fortune of skills, trust, and results. This also means that starting small is not a weakness. It's often the smartest approach. By focusing on manageable, repeatable steps, you create a sustainable path that is far more likely to lead to lasting success. In the end, consistency allows you to harness time as an ally. Every day you maintain your effort, you are adding to an invisible bank of progress that will eventually become visible. When the results finally show, they will seem sudden to everyone else, but you will know the truth. They were built quietly, patiently, and persistently through the compounding effect of your consistent actions. The entire message comes down to this. Success, growth, and personal transformation are never the result of single, dramatic events. They are the outcome of small, deliberate actions repeated over time. The illusion of overnight success fades when we understand that momentum, discipline, patience, character, and the compounding effect all stem from one source: consistency. It is consistency that pushes through the invisible early stages when results are nowhere in sight. It is consistency that transforms fleeting motivation into enduring discipline. It is consistency that allows patience to thrive in a fast-paced world, and it is consistency that builds a character others can trust and respect. Over time, this steady commitment quietly compounds until its impact is undeniable. Those who master consistency do not rely on inspiration to act. They act because they have made the habit part of who they are. They understand that greatness is not found in what they occasionally do, but in what they do without fail, day after day. This approach outlasts the noise of trends, the distractions of comparison, and the temptations of shortcuts. If there is one truth to carry forward, it is this: your future is being shaped right now by what you do repeatedly. Every choice you make is a vote for the person you are becoming. Stay steady in those choices, keep moving even when the progress is hidden, and trust that the path you walk consistently will lead you to the results you seek. In the end, consistency is not just the key, it is the lock, the door, and the path beyond it.